Last week, it hit 75 degrees in Portland.
Just a beautiful day all around Oregon.
And with it came sunshine, sunglasses, and short sleeves. But today, we woke up to this.
Why? It's April.
So much for an early summer. And despite the snow in the metro area, Multnomah County did not open severe weather shelters for those living on the streets. So we asked, why not?
It becomes very difficult to open hundreds of shelter beds in an hour or two, especially when we still weren't actually sure that it would be this much.
Here's the story.
Welcome to The Story. I'm Pat Doris. All the ways to communicate with us right there at the bottom of your screen. You can email us. The address is thestory@kgw.com. You can use the hashtag TheStoryKGW on Twitter, or just leave an old-fashioned voicemail. Call our phone number, 503-226-5090. This morning when I woke up, I wondered about the folks living outside, and I hoped they were safe. I also wondered if the emergency cold weather shelters had opened up. Turns out, they had not. Some quick background here. Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties all provide emergency warming shelters during the winter when the temperatures dip near or below freezing. The idea is to create a temporary space that's warm and indoors for homeless people so that no one freezes to death. Well, over the weekend, Multnomah County did have one or more people watching the weather and the forecast, but it was a very specific forecast at a very specific time. They looked at the forecast only from the National Weather Service, and they did it Sunday morning, which at the time did not call for snow or temperatures below freezing. But later in the day, the forecast changed and did call for snow. County spokesman Dennis Thurald told me it's difficult to open the shelters on short notice.
As someone who's an outsider, why is it difficult to open that many shelter beds on short notice?
Well, you need a few hundred folks to come out and staff, 4 to 6 sites, right? And you got to get the word out to 211. You've got to get people in charge there. You've got to get the word out to folks to know that they can come to those sites. You've got to make sure the sites are staged. You've got to roll out mats. You've got to make sure there's food service. You've got to make sure folks can get in there. You've got to let TriMet know. There's a lot of steps to do that.
Yep, I get it. But in my opinion, more should have been done last night. Every forecaster was calling for snow by early evening. Our meteorologist, Joe Ranieri, predicted 5 inches in many areas, and he was right. Yes, it is an unusual storm, historic, and much later in the season than normal. But it reveals something about the emergency shelter structure. It reveals an organization that is lumbering and slow. I find it hard to believe that after the morning check-in for the forecast, nobody thought to ring the alarm bell as it became clear in the afternoon it really was going to snow. And why aren't there people responsible for each of the locations run by the county who are able to move quickly and open the shelter on an emergency as the conditions call for it? It sounds like they're starting from scratch each time an emergency shelter is needed. Why? It should all be in place and ready to go with a single phone call. I haven't heard of any deaths from the cold, wet snow overnight, and I hope everyone made it. But make no mistake, it was dangerous out there, especially for anyone without a tent or some sort of shelter. The organization of emergency shelters needs to be able to adapt and be more nimble. Demanding 12 hours lead time to open an emergency shelter is a concept that should be trashed right now. We're living in a time of climate change, and just because we've always done something one way does not mean we should stick with it forever. Now is the time to be able to act and react quickly. Extreme weather is here to stay. That's my opinion. What's your take? Am I off the mark? Send me an email. TheStory@kgw.com is the address, or call and leave a message. 503-226-5090. So how strange is snow in April for the Portland area? It's really strange. Let's check in with meteorologist Joe Ranieri.
Pat, this was a rare storm. If we see anything in the month of April, it's a mix of snow and rain, and that's it. Now, the last time downtown Portland saw a measurable amount of snow was, get this, in 1901. That's more than 120 years ago. The record is more than 5 inches of snow set back in 1936. Now, here's a look at what we saw today, 2 inches in downtown Portland. Here's a look at some of the more historic storms that have hit Portland over the years.
In December of 1964, a record snowpack blanketed Mount Hood and covered Portland streets.
The Pacific Northwest is known for rain, but the region has made headlines for other extreme weather. Today, we're opening the KGW vault and taking a look at the snowstorms that have hit our region over the years. We're heading back to 1964. Warm weather turned cold and it snowed for days. It was a December winter wonderland, but it warmed up again and we had torrential rains. All that snow and rain turned into severe flooding.
In Oregon alone, over 7,000 homes were destroyed, leaving over 8,000 people homeless. Near Salem in Kaiser, the water rose 4 inches every 15 minutes. Some 400 homes were submerged by the fast-rising water.
Jump to January 1969. A major blizzard named the Big Snow hit. It dumped several feet of snow all up and down the valley. It even impacted Eugene, where the University of Oregon shut down after getting 7 inches. That storm set records that still stand today.
We could not get out of the house.
I've been snowed in for 5 or 6 days.
Now to 2008, a more recent storm. That's when the metro area got about 1.5 feet of snow in the month of December. The snow was so deep that people were actually snowboarding in downtown. What a sight. The excitement lasted a couple of weeks. Unlike the snowstorm in 1964, there was no flooding. Portland's official snowfall amount today was 1.13 inches of snow. Now, that's a record, and today was the first day ever that PDX has seen measurable amount of snow in the month of April. And here's a look at some of the snowfall amounts that we picked up from across our area. Take a look at Washougal, almost 1 foot of snow. Now, this is the higher elevations throughout southwest Washington. Happy Valley over in Clackamas County, 7 inches of snow. Sylvan Hill, about 500 feet or so, 6 inches. Lake Oswego saw 4 inches of snow. And again, downtown Portland saw 2 inches of snow. So hopefully, Pat, we can say adios to the snow, at least for now. Back to you.
Well, the snow was a surprise to many of us. I find waking up and peeking outside the window to see the snow takes me back to childhood for just a moment. So fun. But my wife and I were talking about that this morning, and then she remembered the tall azalea plant blooming in our backyard and sprang into action.
This is not good. This is really not good.
Like many of you, my wife Jackie loves her plants and was not about to let the heavy, wet snow break the tender azaleas, at least not without a significant fight. So, armed with a broom from our kitchen, she attacked, shaking the bushes violently as she knocked off the heavy cement-like snow. With the fresh spring leaves and blooms, many of the plants in our area are particularly vulnerable right now to this kind of a storm. It took several minutes, but Jackie's not one to lose in a battle like this, or any battle for that matter. And in time, she freed the azalea. Later, I had a chance to talk with Katie Fry from the Portland Nursery. She said knocking the snow off is a good idea, and if stems have not snapped, most plants will recover.
Surprisingly resilient. I think you will see a lot of things just like bounce back to normal within a few days of our different shrubs and stuff. Most of them fortunately haven't fully leafed out yet, so there's not, if they were more fully leafed out, we might have seen way more damage, but since a lot of them are just kind of starting, I think they'll just bounce back and kind of spring back into shape.
On the other hand, she said if you've already planted petunias or marigolds or tomatoes, they may not make it. Finally, we tried to check in with the Wooden Shoe folks in Woodburn. They reported their tulip fields were in full bloom Saturday. We didn't hear back from them directly today, but on social media they've been saying they did get cold rain, but no snow. For this week's Hey Help campaign, we're asking you to donate to the Free Clinic of Southwest Washington. They provide free basic health and dental care and to uninsured people and underserved communities in the region. One of their big goals is to keep people out of the emergency room, which is often where people without health insurance go. The clinic relies completely on donations and grants. If you'd like to help out, just hold your phone's camera up to the QR code there on your screen, or you can go to kgw.com/heyhelp.
The push to change Portland's form of government has a pretty big supporter, the man who's currently the head of Portland's government.
Right now, I'm clearly responsible, but people would be shocked how little authority I actually have over anything in the current form of government.
And it's the end of an era for one of the most famous Portland trailblazers.
Rip City, baby!
Legendary announcer Bill Schonely, retiring after more than 50 years with the team. We'll look back at his remarkable career when the story continues.
Welcome back. Keep sending your questions and comments to the story at kgw.com or give us a call. Leave a voicemail at 503-226-5090. This fall, if you live in Portland, you're going to be able to vote on whether you want the entire city government rebuilt pretty much from the ground up. A lot of people in this city, even plenty who work at City Hall, say the city that works, well, doesn't. And it's time to throw out the current form of government and start over. A few weeks ago, the city's Charter Review Commission released their plan to do just that, and it goes to the ballot this fall. They suggest 3 big changes. First, they'd split the city into 4 geographic districts. Each district would elect 3 of its own city councilors, so we'd have 12 together. You'll also be able to rank the candidates in order of preference rather than just voting for the top person. And the city councilors would no longer manage the city bureaus. They would work on policy, and the day-to-day management of the bureaus would go to the mayor and a new city manager. A lot of you had questions about all these changes, and we discussed them with the co-chair of the Charter Commission. Anne Marie sent us this email reading, "Please ask the City Charter Commission for a map of the 4 geographic districts." And Dennis had a similar thought. He wrote, the city's already divided southeast, northeast, northwest, north, southwest, and south. That's 6, some small, some big. Well, the map, to tell you the truth, apparently has not been drawn yet, but it won't necessarily be divided the way the streets are.
The districts will be weighted by population so that they represent similar size population. It would be a community body that would be charged with drawing the district lines, and they would have criteria such as drawing the lines in a way that's fair and representative of natural boundaries and things like neighborhoods and communities of interest. So there's a process that would be outlined in our charter amendments, and then that group will be appointed after the election to actually do the first districting exercise. And then every 10 years after the census, there would be a redistricting process, similar to what we do for the state legislature, for the federal legislature, where you have the House of Representatives districts get redrawn every 10 years, just to keep that population balance between the districts.
A big question a lot of you had, how much are these changes going to cost us?
The new proposal to have 12 counselors now instead of 4. And my question is about salary. Is the salary going to be decreased so that we don't have to pay for an additional 8 counselors? Or are the counselors' salaries going to be decreased by 1/3 so that we pay them the same salary that we're paying now?
Excellent question, Diane. I don't think the salary is going down, although it's maybe not decided yet. The Charter Commission says they're not sure exactly what's going to happen. They're working out the details in the coming months, but they say that they think by restructuring the government, they're going to be able to save money in the end, even with more counselors.
We think that there could be quite a few changes that would result in efficiencies and saving of money. There are a number of bureaus that have functions within their bureaus that are duplicated, and those add to cost quite a bit. With a more streamlined and operationally efficient government on a day-to-day basis, we think there'll be some significant savings there, and there may be more costs associated with some parts of the proposal, but they may be offset, and we don't know this for sure yet. We're going to be studying this in the next phase.
Excellent. Those are just a couple of the questions that a lot of you have asked. We know there's more. Please send them to us. The story at kgw.com. We'll look into it for you. A lot of you think nearly any reasonable change would be better than what we have in Portland now. And I asked the mayor, Ted Wheeler, about that recently. Guess what? He agrees with you.
I am more interested in the core problem as I see it. The core problem as I see it is you are electing people to serve on a city council, but really what they are is managers of diverse, complicated, large business enterprises. And people who are elected to the Portland City Council may have never managed anything larger than a popsicle stand. That doesn't work. And as the issues get larger, as the crises deepen, as the complexities of the problem facing our society increase, we need professional management. We need a professional management and operations organization. And then we need the city council to be legislators, as they are in other cities. And frankly, we need a strong mayor form of government. That would be my preference. You need a decider. You need to put responsibility and authority in the same bucket. Right now, I'm clearly responsible, but people would be shocked how little authority I actually have over anything in the current form of government. And so there's a bifurcation and a lack of accountability in too much of this. And so I support the work of the Charter Review Commission. Whatever they put on the ballot will be a definite improvement over the status quo, and I will absolutely support it.
Well, that's a pretty strong endorsement, but we'd like to know what you think as well. It's a two-way conversation, even with this TV screen or this phone screen in between us. Send us your comments. Still ahead, we're paying tribute to a Rip City legend when the story continues. Well, the Portland Trail Blazers season is officially over. If you're a fan, you're probably a bit relieved. You don't have to keep watching the team lose over and over again. It has been a rough season. Sorry about that. Let's all hope for better luck next year. In the meantime, the team is celebrating the career of play-by-play announcer Bill Schonely. He retired over the weekend. He's been with the Blazers for more than 50 years, and the team gave him a great send-off last night. In 2017, former KGW anchor Joe Donlin profiled Schonely for our History Makers series. Let's take a look back in time at that piece.
It was a moment in sports history a city and a state will never forget. For the man behind the microphone at that game, it was the greatest experience of his professional career.
The Portland Trailblazers have won the World Championship.
Did you think about what you were going to say at that moment?
No, I had no idea. No, I didn't have anything written down in case this would happen or that would happen. It came out.
The road to that championship season took Bill Schonely around the country and around the world. He was born in Norristown, Pennsylvania on June 1st, 1929. He once asked his mom about his name.
Your father and I, when you were born on the first day of the month, we decided to call you Bill, because never forget, son, all bills come on the first of the month.
From an early age, Schonely loved music, the big band sounds of Glenn Miller, and singing. By his high school years, he had another love, a young lady named Dottie. It wasn't meant to be at the time, and the high school sweethearts parted ways. Bill went on to join the Marine Corps. He was sent to the South Pacific, where he landed a job interview with Armed Forces Radio, and his career was born.
I sat down in front of this major, and we talked. He said, "We want you here." So they changed my orders, and I started Armed Forces Radio in late 1949. And I've been in the business ever since. And that really whetted my appetite.
Schonely even landed a part on Bob Hope's radio show when the comedian made a stop in Guam.
I credit the United States Marine Corps for this young whippersnapper at the time to straighten me out. And here we are. I do everything I can for the Marine Corps.
After his service, Schonely took a chance on a broadcasting job in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He was a DJ, read the news, had a talk show. He did a little of everything. And I mean everything. He was even a ring announcer for wrestling. It was a side hustle he continued when he moved to Seattle in 1955. He even ended up in the ring after a challenge from the Outlaw.
So dumb me, I said, because I knew nothing about this at all, I said, yeah, that sounds okay. So for a week I was lifting weights and doing things and getting ready, getting my shoes and so forth and so on. Well, the next week the place was jammed again. I got up there and I did wrestle a little bit. They were very nice to me, and the good guys won it. So that's all it was.
Schonely made a name for himself in Seattle, among other things, broadcasting games for the Seattle Totems hockey team. He stepped in once to play goalie.
At one time, I was doing hockey, end of baseball season, and working on Husky football broadcast all at the same time. And some of the weekends, I wouldn't even get home. I'd be all over the place.
Schonely eventually got the call to broadcast Major League Baseball for the Seattle Pilots. The team would move to Milwaukee, and Schonely himself would make a move in 1970 after getting a call from Harry Glickman about his brand new NBA team in Portland.
They put me up on a flop house downtown, and I came over to his office, and we talked for about 5 or 6 minutes, shook hands. That was coming up right now as we speak, 48 years ago.
Good evening, basketball fans, wherever you may be.
The man who would become known as the Shans has seen it all, every year of Trailblazer basketball. He did get a call from the Seattle Mariners in 1976, but he decided to stay in Portland, just in time for that magical 1977 season.
Not too many people expected a lot out of the Portland Trailblazers, especially getting into the finals. And about halfway through the year, all of a sudden you could feel something good was going to happen. And
it did. The Blazers beat Philadelphia, and they were NBA champions.
There's a bedlam out there. I could hardly see, and I'm darting around and with a headset on, and it was wonderful.
Then Schonely made his way to the locker room for the postgame show.
I no sooner got back there than Maurice Lucas, Walton, and David Twardzik picked me up and threw me in the shower with them. I was soaking wet. I couldn't do the post-game show. That's okay. They gave me a ring instead, so that's all right. There were parties everywhere you went, on the streets, in the neighborhoods, went bonkers.
The celebration and parade that followed only solidified the city's love affair with the Blazers and the man who coined the phrase, Rip City.
It just came to me, and it grew and grew and grew, and now the company is called Rip City Inc., and wherever you go, it's Rip City. And matter of fact, you're talking to the mayor of Rip City. Anything I can do for you, Joe?
Another championship, perhaps? Schonely agrees with that, but says they better hurry up. At 88, he hopes to continue as a team ambassador for another 2 years. At 90, he'll think about slowing down. For now, he enjoys looking back. Speaking of which, he made a call to someone he hadn't talked to in years. Remember Dottie? They reconnected in 1989.
So we chatted. I said, I'm coming back for the reunion. Would it be possible to see you? We saw one another. Bingo, bango, bongo. We got married, started together, we'll end it together.
Dottie once said, "This isn't Bill's job, It's his life.
Rip City, baby.
For all the charities he has helped, for all the friends he has made, for all the fans he has entertained, Rip City says thank you and congratulations to Bill Schonely, Oregon history maker.
I've given my life to the Portland Trailblazers, most of my professional life, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I thank everybody for their encouragement. This night is very special to me, and I shall cherish it forever.
Rip City, baby. Ah, yes. Well, Schonely was 88 years old in that piece, and like you heard, he wasn't ready to retire at the time. Now, at age 92, he says it is time. As for what's he going to do in retirement, well, Damian Lillard Toyota in McMinnville just gave him a new RAV4, so maybe he'll take a road trip. Who knows? Looks like a good life lived by Bill Schonely, and more to come from him. Keep sending your questions and comments to the story at kgw.com. We'll finish the show with some good news right after this. Well, it's Monday, so let's get some good news to start the week off right. Recently, we met a man thankful for a chance to visit his son here.
What's uplifting today for us is that we haven't seen our son, who lives in Portland. We live in Encinitas, which is part of San Diego County, and we're just very, very happy to be able to see him. We've been able to talk to him on the phone and all that, but with COVID, and I had an operation and different kinds of things, we just haven't been up here in probably 18 months to 2 years. So we're very happy to be up here.
And we're happy you got the chance. Hey, that's the end of our show. Thanks for watching. But remember, the story, our story, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow night.
This is KGW News at 6:30.